Hi, I'm Britt,
And my name is Alissa.
and this is SkeleTales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
That's right. We also share true tales of the strange, unusual, and paranormal.
Heck yeah, we do. What are we talking about today, Britt?
Well, Alyssa and I, you and I kind of got our lines crossed a little bit. Alyssa came up with a brilliant topic for the week, and I got stories for a totally different topic that is not related in the slightest.
And we figured this out just now, right before the show notes. There was a little confusion of references. Telemarketers maybe might have been thrown in there.
I'm like, what do you mean, telemarketers? Anyways, we're going to shake things up a little bit these next two episodes. So hold on to your britches. We are doing an Alyssa-only episode, and the next week's episode is going to be a Brit-only episode, so that your brain doesn't get completely scrambled by hearing completely different topics. And so what are you going to be talking about tonight, Alyssa?
Thanks for asking, Britt. Tonight, I will be talking about phone calls from beyond the grave.
I'm so excited about your topic.
So my first call, nope. Oh, God, this is a lot of pressure, Britt.
You got this,
pressure.
Alyssa.
Okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm you for half of it.
Yeah.
So I'll
Perfect.
talking Britt's voice. Okay.
Oh my God, I sound like a sexy model.
Heck yeah, you do. You do. Okay, so my first story comes from Ranker, and they say, when I was a child, we would frequently get calls for a woman named Tanya. Didn't seem like a big deal. She had the same last name as us, although it's quite a common one around here. When we moved across the city and phone books stopped being the go-to for finding somebody's number, the calls for Tanya gradually stopped. Those days seemed to have ended, and we carried on, forgetting about the mysterious Tanya. It was about 4 years ago that she popped up in our lives again. I was driving home from work one afternoon and was greeted by a pretty grisly car wreck at the turn to my house. 2 cars had collided, and one had wrapped itself around the signage pole that had house numbers and directions on it, one of which was my house number. Several days later, we got a call from the police. They asked if Tanya was at this residence. Her car was found wrapped around a pole down the street from my house, and she was nowhere to be found at the accident site. Haven't heard anything from her since.
What? Get the shit out. That's crazy. She vanished?
She vanished? I don't even know what to make of this one. This one sounded so much like one of those scary stories to tell in the dark sort of thing. It's just the mystery of it all.
Where is Tanya? Tanya?
Tanya sounds like, actually, Tanya sounds like real, like northern, like someone's saying it like Tanya. Is there Tanya there? Regardless, Tanya's haunting her or following them or something. There's something.
That is fascinating. I love it. I kind of love the not having the pressure of telling the next story too. Like, and just getting to like lean back and relax and listen to you all
Okay,
hour.
yeah, I'll take over. Hey, Alyssa, do you have another story? Oh, sure, Alyssa. I sure do. I labeled this one Creepy Voice John.
Ooh.
Okay, so this one is from Duck in a Tub. Mitch was just telling me about ducks. I ran upstairs for a minute and he was talking in my ear about some duck that lays duck eggs in some other duck's nest, and it's called the rude duck, rudity duck or something. And I said, what do you call a rude duck? A dick. It's very relevant to this next story. Duck in a Tub wrote this one in. Let me start off by saying that while I love reading about paranormal experiences, I'm definitely a skeptic and always assume there's a logical explanation that doesn't involve the supernatural. Having said that, even I don't really have an explanation for this. I woke up one morning and saw that I had about 4 missed calls from my mom and 3 missed calls from my brother made the previous night. I panicked, thinking my grandmother or someone else was in the hospital. I immediately called my mom, and as soon as she answered the phone, she asked, "Do you think you're being funny?" Completely confused as to why she was upset, she told me to call my brother. So I called my half-brother and he asked if my dad, John, was okay because I live with him. When I asked why, he said it was because he got a phone call last night from my phone number. And when he answered, a voice just said, "John is dead." And the call ended. He said that even though it was my phone number, it was not my voice. He said it was a deeper and somehow creepy, like not entirely human sounding. I thought a logical explanation might be that I butt dialed him and my phone picked up the audio from a TV show or something. Afterwards, I checked my call log and I did not see a call made to my brother. That was maybe 1 to 2 years ago, and my dad is fine. I just have no explanation for what happened that night.
Thank God the dad's fine, number one. And number two, creepy as shit, but also very cool.
I'm thinking about actually telling another story about birds in between because something very exciting happened today. Not about ducks. The crows. I fed a freaking crow and it came to me. I talked to the crows. It came and it ate some bread that I was eating, some pizza. Then I offered some bread and I think it was disappointed by that offering. But I showed it my diamond ring and I was like, bring me more.
Yes, your dreams are coming true right now, Alissa.
It's happening.
Feeding, keep feeding, and then it will bring you treats and treasures.
Yes, and baubles. I'm so excited. Mitch has it on tape. I'm like yelling at him and trying to show them. And then they came down and they got it. I've made another offering, still waiting to see what's going to happen. I told them to look at my face. I hope they did. I don't know. They didn't confirm that they did. But I said, remember this face. It's kind and it will give you things. Because I've actually read recently that the crows will look into your house and see what you have and try to bring you things that you like. So
that's incredible.
And I'm going to if you see me on my deck, all dressed to the nines and real sparkly.
Sequin dress, diamonds.
Yeah, you'll understand why. It's for the crows, okay?
Strictly for the crows. Alissa, I am loving these stories. I am ready for your next one. Are you ready?
Oh, heck yeah, I am. This one is from Chinchilla Decks. So they say, hey, y'all. About 5 to 6 years ago, I was working on the night shift as a 911 operator dispatcher. It was about 2020, 30. I was like, that year is in the future. It's military time. So it was about 11:30. Yes, it was about 11:30 p.m. and I took a 911 call from a verified landline that was tied to a specific address. When I answered the phone, no one responded to me. In the background of the call, I could hear what sounded like faint moaning and possibly a jingle on a TV, as if it was playing a commercial or something. My immediate thought was, this is probably an elderly patient that fell or needs medical assistance, which was very common in this area. When I looked up the address, there was nothing significant in the location history regarding medical calls. There was a structure fire call placed a couple years ago, but I didn't read the narrative on that fire call, so I assumed it was like a small indoor fire and would be coded as a structure fire, and the house still remained since obviously someone was calling on a landline phone. The phone had gone silent. At this point, besides a faint crackling, no one responded to me, and so I disconnected the line. I sent the call up to dispatch as an unverified emergency call, since they had called in on a 911 line and stated that I heard possible moaning, but nothing else that stood out. My dispatcher had 2 police officers a couple blocks away that were clearing up a call, so he made them aware to check out the unverified emergency. A couple minutes later, I got a call from the same landline number. We would usually have calls sent back to us automatically if it came in on the same number. Again, I heard the TV and the faint moaning. Still, no one responded to me. Eventually, the line went silent again, and there was just a faint crackling. So I disconnected the line. A couple minutes later, the police officers rolled on scene, and I waited to hear what the situation was. A few minutes or so later, they cleared the scene. The dispatcher sent me a message and asked me if the address was correct. I confirmed the address came in twice on a residential landline, so that had to be the location of the call. My dispatcher told me that the house burned down a couple years prior. Apparently, All that was left was the concrete slab and some of the burned framing of the structure. The police officers knew the address, but obviously went to the area to see if there was anyone injured, overdosed, trespassing on the property, etc. They didn't find anyone in the area, and apparently none of the neighbors heard or saw anything. I still think about this call from time to time. It was creepy when I took the initial call just because the moaning and the TV noises were odd. But knowing that the house was completely burned down and that there was no one living there or even a functioning phone line makes it even creepier.
Who's calling?
I really wanted there to be one little added element to this, that it burnt down on the same exact day that I received these calls. Put a bow on that shit.
Amazing. But seriously, that's wild that the TV noise, the moaning, it wasn't just weird static. Like there were distinctive sounds.
The crackling of a fire starting, like someone is they're trapped, they're wishing that they had called.
So good. So good. Ooh, you really brought it this episode. Bringing it.
Yeah, because I knew I was going to just take this shit over. No, I didn't. I really was not excited to have to do all the time. My throat is so dry. I can't breathe through my nose.
You got this. You're doing great.
Keep it up, Alissa. So I think that I may have talked about this experience in our I Just Called to Say I Haunt You episode from April 27th, 2022. That is on the Spotify if you want to go listen to that, or wherever you listen to all your podcasts. But it reminds me of this time that I was home and the cops showed up and knocked on my door. And they thought that they'd received a phone call from this address, but it was a cell phone call. And long story short, they thought I murdered Mitch and like made me bring him to the door. And I wouldn't open the door for the police. Did I tell you this?
You did. You did. And you were terrified because you thought maybe it was like a fake cop impersonator and you were not going to let them in your house at all in the middle of the night. But then the cop was like, ma'am, bring me your murdered husband.
Yeah. I think at one point I was like, that's exactly what a fake cop would say. Like, he did not enjoy me. So yes, if you want to hear that whole story, I just called to say I haunt you. But that's what that one reminded me of. Are you going to ask me if I have another story? I don't know where we left off.
Alissa, just tell your story.
Hey, howdy ho, Alissa. Do you have another story to tell about these telephony calls? I'm really enjoying them. Yeehaw. Yeah, Britt, I actually do. This last one.
Rude.
It's from... I got it covered. This last one is from Gilgamesh Humbaba. And they say, in 1991, my mother was killed in a tragic auto pedestrian accident. Funeral arrangements were made, family gathered in the city where she lived, and we all returned home and carried on. About a month later, I was sleeping at home when the phone rang, about 3 a.m. I had to get up to answer it, as the only phone was in the kitchen. There was a lot of static on the line, and then, amazingly, I heard my mother's voice. She had a distinctive voice. She sounded like Lucille Ball, so I could tell who it was. I was so shocked. I couldn't make sense. I remember that I said, "Mother, where are you?" All kinds of things were going through my mind. Was there maybe a case of mistaken identity? Was she not dead? Maybe hurt and couldn't remember anything? She seemed very confused and frustrated, wouldn't answer any of my questions, but kept saying she had to find June. She had lived on a road called Lake June Road, so I thought that that was what she meant. I was frantically trying to get her to say where she was, telling her I wanted to help her, but after mentioning June a couple more times, there was more static and the line went dead. I sat in the dark for a long time, wondering what to do and what had happened, and if possibly I had imagined the whole thing. Finally, it was time to go to work, and I got ready and went. When I got to work, my dear friend and coworker was a little late that morning. When she arrived, she told me she had a really bad night. I said, "Tell me about it. You and me both." Then my face went white and my hair stood on end as she told me, "Yeah, last night, about 3 a.m., my Aunt June passed away."
Goosebumps all over
These ones are sad and also...
What are the freaking chances? That's insanity.
What are the chances? I don't know. But then this poor lady thinks that her mom is just like stuck in a well somewhere. Like she has this glimmer of hope that like her mom has just been...
Mistaken identity. She's really alive.
But no, she went and got her friend's Aunt June and brought her to the other side.
So good. These are so good.
A part of me also is like, it was just the friend, like on a bad connection. It's like, no, my Aunt June died. No, what? I'm not your mom.
I've been trying to call.
Like, what? No.
You sound just like Lucille Ball.
What? Okay, I have one last story for you.
I could do this all night. This is great. And so easy for me.
Just sitting there drinking your wine, listen to Alissa stumble and squirm over the Zoom.
It's like my own personal podcast. You're my own personal podcaster just for me. It's delightful.
It's a little one-on-one, huh? I never thought about. Okay, well, now I feel like I'm tucking you into bed for some like nighttime stories. So this one will make you sleep.
I'm sure.
Okay, so this one is also from Ranker, and it says, when my sister was young, my parents got her a personal phone, a landline so that she could feel special. Yes, she was extra spoiled. It was a prepaid landline though, so basically no one could call in or out if she ran out of credit, much like a mobile phone. Anyway, every night at 3 a.m., her phone would ring. She said there was a man on the other line, and she would get really scared and come running to my room. It escalated to the point that I asked her to please disconnect her phone before going to sleep because it was becoming extremely annoying to get woken up every night by this person that called her. Eventually, she just got rid of the phone. A few years ago, we were talking about it, and she confessed that her phone continued to ring even after she disconnected it, which is why she said she didn't want it anymore. She has no recollection of what the man on the other end was saying, or maybe she just completely blocked it out.
Ooh, that's terrifying.
The disconnected phone call. We've told a couple stories like that in the past where all this stuff is happening and then... Wait, a rat chewed through the wire. How did this happen?
I was asking my 18-year-old niece the other day, I said, have you ever used a rotary dial phone before? Nope. Have you ever seen a phone book in real life? Nope. You're an adult who can buy cigarettes and you've never seen a phone book. It's just makes me feel very, very old.
One, I don't miss phone books, though. They always were just a waste of space. Not a fan.
The trees are happier.
There's a charm to a rotary phone, and it's very enjoyable. We have one here, so if your niece ever wants to come for a visit, we can record them trying to...
Practice a little bit.
Yes. Give it a go. It's really funny to watch the kids try the first time. I was wondering, though, if we did need to like do a disclaimer, and explain how a landline in your room was a special thing, because back in the day... most houses had one line and you have several phones. And when you pick up one phone, if someone's talking in the other room, you can hear it and you'd have to wait for your turn to use the phone.
Now, a little later on, they did have you could do call waiting, but that was a little bit more advanced. And half the time you'd like hang up on the other person. So what a lot of people would do is they would get a second phone line. So if you're older brothers on the phone, you can make a phone call on the other second line.
Yeah, it was the coolest to have your own phone line, like in your room. Like that was the absolute coolest. That was like getting your own mobile phone now, except I never got my own phone line in my room. Less achievable. You had to be real special.
I never, ever had my own line, ever. But I did find a brown rotary dial phone when I was in high school, and I felt cool as shit with that vintage. In high school, you know how if you need to call long distance, you had to get a calling card. And so you'd have to put in the like 20-digit number and then dial the long distance number. Well, let me tell you, that on a rotary phone is real fun to take 15 minutes to try to call your friend in Arizona.
It's hard enough on a dial pad phone. I can't imagine because you mess up so much, or I did. It's a lot of digits to remember.
Alissa, this was incredible.
Thanks, Britt. I wish I had come more prepared with more phone puns. I'm really freezing up right now.
No, that was great. But this does segue wonderfully if somebody has a phenomenal phone story, they can call our very own phone line, the SkeleTales hotline, 302-689-DEAD, 302-689-3323, or you can write it with your clickety-clack fingers on the keyboard to our hotbox.
Heck yeah, write in your phantom phone calls into the hotbox at skeletalespodcast@gmail.com. You can also send them to us on all the socials. Slide into those DMs. We like it.
We do.
If you have a creepy story about receiving a spooky phone call or a phone call from the dead or a pager message in code that you understood from a dead friend, let us know. We're on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Facebook group, SkeleTales community. We're on the YouTubes. Go subscribe over there. We are also on TikTok, everywhere. Go find us. Hey, leave us a review. That'd be sick.
Hell yeah. We haven't gotten one of those in a while. Or maybe we did and we just stopped checking.
Yeah, didn't check. Well, you know what? You should call us and give us a review.
Oh, Alissa, I got a really creepy phone call the other day.
You did?
Yeah. It was like this voice and it said, "Haunt y'all later."
Haunt you later.
Good night.
Good night.